Hello, everyone, and welcome to Africa Fire Mission's weekly virtual training session. My name is Mike, and I'm the programs director here at Africa Fire Mission. We're so happy that you took time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's training. Today, we're joined by Craig Duck. Craig's been volunteering with Africa Fire Mission for almost as long as we've been around, filled all sorts of roles for us, and we're excited to have him back here today. Again, he's going to be doing some lessons about hand tools. Before we get started with his lesson, though, we'll pass things over to Jose Njiri. Jose is Africa Fire Mission's fire safety officer. He's going to get us started with a couple words of encouragement.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chief Mike, and thank you so much, Chief Craig, for coming around and having time for us, and also for you to actually find bundles to come. We don't take that for granted, honestly. Well, there's a fire station I visited one day, and I wouldn't say which county it was because I really visit so many fire stations around the country here in Kenya. And this one person I was talking to said, you know what? If that person shows up in this shift, I will not go with him to the fire. I was like, why? Oh, that person is unreliable. He's not going to help you in any way. He'll get you fix the hoses alone. He'll make you do stuff alone. I really don't like him to be in the crew. Then when I was going back to my office, it just hit me like, wow, that's really not cool. And it got me thinking about the buddy system. Buddy system in the fire service is whereby you are assigned one other person to actually go inside a fire, a burning place or a burning house, and you get to go do the rescue, or they help you pull hose or things like those. But then here comes this person who doesn't want this person to be in his crew. So the question to you is, are you fit for yourself to be to be paired up by your duty officer or by your lieutenant, to be paired up for you to be in a buddy system? If not, check yourself. So what do I do about it? Tell yourself, I'll be the person who somebody else would want me to become their buddy, so that we can go out there to either extinguish a fire together, and this person even can rescue me when you're going outside. When you're going to fight a fire outside. So with that in mind, keep in place that you are the one who's supposed to be ready to become the buddy, a buddy to save up the buddy in a fire situation. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chief Mike.
Thank you, Jose. We really appreciate you coming with us every week, helping to walk with the firefighters throughout all of Africa to better themselves and their communities. Before we get started with today's training, just a couple of administrative notes. If you stick around for at least 70% of today's training, which is usually about 40 or 45 minutes, you'll receive a certificate of attendance for today's training. The name that goes on that certificate's the screen name that you're using right now, so if you'd like to have that changed, please go ahead and rename yourself so we can get that taken care of. If you get disconnected for some reason or you missed a couple of our classes from earlier this year, keep your eye in the chat. I'll be posting a link to our Google Drive folder where you can find a recording of today's training and all the trainings that we've done so far this year. If you go there, watch the video, and answer a few questions about what you learned, I'll get you a certificate of attendance for those trainings as well. When we get finished with today's training at the top of the hour, we'll transition into tea time, which Jose will be hosting. And it's a time where you can ask some more questions about today's class or really talk about anything that may be on your mind. It's a great place to network with other firefighters throughout Africa. So I encourage you, if you've got the time and the bundles, to stick around for that later on. At this point in time, without further ado, I'm going to pass things over to Craig to get us started with today's training.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And so we'll go ahead. Let me just get this up there. We'll go from there. All right, so this morning we're going to be talking about hand tools. and not a really glorious topic. We think as firefighters and first responders, we want to have all the glory. We want to have the branch in our hands and put out the fire and rescue people, all that sort of stuff. But hand tools are really important in the fire service, and they're going to help us to complete our tasks that we need to do. And so we need to be proficient with them. So today, our objective for this class is you as firefighters will be able to give a clear definition of what a hand tool is, understand their usefulness and function, articulate specific uses in the different phases of an incident, know the maintenance for the different tools, and then be prepared to advocate for hand tools in your brigade as well as solve problems. And so, again, hand tools are used in almost every incident that we're going to go to. And just get this down here. Hand tools are used to extend or to multiply body actions and can increase the effectiveness of an individual in performing a task. We should be able to understand that an axe can multiply the force that is able to be exerted on a given area, and a hole can be quickly cut or an object broken to aid an overhaul. In other words, using your bare hands to try to break a window or to make a hole in something is really difficult. But you take an axe, you can have more force and you can accomplish that task very quickly. On the other hand, a ceiling hook, we know that can extend our reach. Now, before we go on, I do want to put a disclaimer here. I know that we call different tools by different names. And so it's important to know what we're talking about when we're talking about hand tools. For example, I just used the term ceiling hook. In Washington, D.C., a ceiling hook is that long pole, almost looks like a little shepherd's hook, and you can stick it up into the ceiling and be able to pull it down to check for extension. Other places call it a pike pole, and you might call it something different. So we have to have an understanding of what our tools are when we're talking. A ceiling hook, on the other hand, can extend your reach to be able to make that hole in the ceiling we talked about, pulling it down to check for fire extension, which is important. Power tools, we use some kind of external power source to get the job done, right? So if you think of the jaws of life or a rescue saw, things like that they have some sort of external power source, whereas hand tools are powered by the strength and agility of the person with the tool. So if you are out of shape or weak in your upper body strength, the tool will not be as effective. And so I always give an example of one time after recruit school in Washington, D.C., where the food was really good and I got pretty fat. And we went on a fire, and it was what we call a truck fire, a lot of work to be done and using axes and things like that. And I got winded very quickly. And I didn't want to let that happen again. So I started working out. So it's important to be in shape and to know your body's strength. Firefighters must have the tools. They must know where they're located and know how to operate them if they want to be successful on the fire ground. So again, hand tools are simply non-powered tools that a firefighter can hold in their hands and are used to complete a specific task. And so here's some examples of these hand tools. On the right-hand side, you'll notice those are wildland firefighting tools, right? You got that swatter, you got a Pulaski type tool, your shovel, all these things to be able to work a wildland fire. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see more structural type components. The ceiling hook that I told you about, a Halligan bar, which is very essential in the American fire service, and hopefully one day in Africa as well. And then a axe, bolt cutters, things like that, to be able to help you out. So let's look at some general considerations. You as a firefighter should understand all of the safety precautions for using hand tools, the conditions that are needed for using these hand tools, and the effective use of them. Because what good is a hand tool if it's in a closet somewhere, it's not on the fire truck, or if you don't know how to use it, or if it's not working properly, it's as if you don't have it. And so it's important for us to understand, and we want to be able to do it safely so that you don't get hurt in the process. So looking at some of those safety considerations, we're going to want to make sure that you limit your injury and death, right, caused by it. Some of the hand tools can do that. If you're operating on a ladder with one of those ceiling hooks trying to force a window and you fall off the ladder, that's not a good thing. So we want to be safe in doing it. We want to have our PPE on at all times, right? Our helmet, our gloves, our eye protection, our tunic, our gum boots, as they're said in some places, or just regular boots. But we want to have all of that on, especially if we're breaking things or moving things that if you don't have gloves on can injure you. If you don't have eye protection, you can get glass or something in your eye. So it's important to be mindful of the safety considerations. And so the conditions of use, this is really important. We as firefighters must fully understand how to use every tool that is carried on your truck. Most of them are simple. Hand tools are pretty much simple, but some get to be a little complicated. You need to know what the limitations of the tools are, and what you can use them in. And an example of that is that ceiling hook that I referred to. In the United States, they're made of all different types of material. So you might have one made out of wood, you might have one made out of fiberglass. As of late, we've been going to these metal ones, and they're really tough and really strict. Well, if I try to use one of these ceiling hooks to force a door, and it's a wooden one, it's going to snap, it's going to break. And so I must know the limitation of it. Whereas if I have some of those metal ones, they are used for not only pulling a ceiling and checking for fire extension, but they can also be used for forcible entry. So kind of like a dual purpose thing in there. So you must understand every tool that is carried on your truck. You must be proficient at it, be able to define it. I remember when I went to recruit school in Washington, D.C., we spent a whole week on hand tools, and we had to memorize each one. So I can still today, some 30, almost 40 years later, be able to quote what a Halligan bar is. Right, a Halligan bar is a metal tool that have at one end and adze and a point end that are perpendicular to each other, and on the other end a smooth taper that is used for forcible entry and can be used in confined spaces for pulling. And so we must understand it, because you're the subject matter expert. So like if you go out on a fire prevention thing with the kiddos, and they're looking over your truck, you need to be able to explain what these tools are and what they're good for as you're doing it. The other thing we need to, for conditions of use, being able to use it, is you need to practice, practice, practice. I can't say enough about that. Just having a fancy tool on your truck in your brigade doesn't do anything if you're not proficient at using it. And so you have to be prepared for those situations. Many times your heart is racing, things are happening fast. If somebody is trapped, you need to be able to quickly put that ladder up. You need to be able to quickly get the bars off of those windows and some of the places that you have. You have to be proficient at using these hand tools. The citizens expect the fire department to show up prepared, be knowledgeable in what they are doing, and stop the emergency. And so at the most basic level, knowing your hand tools and how to operate them makes you look professional in the eyes of the citizens. And we know that in many places in Africa, as money is coming in and as places are getting built up, you go into some of the cities, they're no different in say Nairobi as they are in America or in Washington D.C. And so to be able to handle these incidents, you have to have the right equipment. These hand tools are going to help you to be able to manage that fire, do those things. So again, practice. Start out small in your brigades, just by checking to make sure they're there and checking to make sure that they're in working order. And then you can just do some exercises with them, how you would use them, what you would do, and then maybe the next time you come to work, you would take that and make your level a little bit higher, right? You would maybe make it more realistic and still being able to see. But then by the end, after using this, maybe you want to blindfold yourself so that you can use these tools in the dark and in the conditions that you would. So again, you have to be proficient at using these things. And we also have to know, the effective uses, right? Firefighters need to learn how to use the least amount of energy to complete the task with your hand tools. So that's the goal of this is we know that it takes energy to be able to complete a task. These hand tools are designed so that you use less energy and you can do it in a quicker way. It's to complete that task as quickly and safely as possible. That's again why it's important to know your body, to be in shape, to understand what you as an individual are capable of, and you should always be moving in a direction to be more and more knowledgeable and to be better prepared for each incident. In America, every firefighter who is not working the hose line is always encouraged to have a tool in their hand. I know resources can be limited as far as people are concerned, but not if you're showing up with 4 people, not all 4 people should be on the branch and the hose line, right? We should have people with tools in their hands in case you need to force a door, in case you need to take bars off a window, in case you need to pull down articles, things. And this is even if you're not going inside. Once you have a crew inside, there's even more tasks. And so we need to get in the habit of always bringing tools to the incident. We don't want to be in a place where we get to the scene, we jump off, we run up to the fire, see what we need, and we run back to the truck, and we get the hose line, and then we need forcible entry, we run back to the truck, and to get the, we should be practicing every time, who's going to be on the branch, who's going to be putting the hose together, who's going to be bringing the forcible entry tools to the scene, who's doing the size up, all that. We work as a team. These hand tools help you to be able to work as a team better. And so by way of functions, we know that each tool has a function and a reason why it was made. While there have been many tools that have been designed for multiple uses, like I was telling you about that ceiling hook that can also be used for forcible entry because it's made of metal, many still are used for one specific task. Again, a wooden ceiling hook is only designed to pull ceilings, but we need to know what those functions are. And so they're just simple. Some tools are going to be rotating tools. I would encourage you on your truck to have a toolbox because if you don't have hydraulic tools for say for car accidents. You can use simple tools like this to be able to take a door off and do other things. So we can use these tools in minor incidents when we're having a problem with, say, a heating and air conditioning. And so it's good to have these rotating tools, your screwdrivers, your wrenches, your pliers. And we'll talk at the end about problem solving, because I know sometimes there's an issue that your tools get stolen, either by the citizens that you're trying to protect, or by even officers taking them and selling them and profiting from them. I've seen a couple of cases of that, and so we'll have some problem solving things at the end where we can say, how to handle this problem. We need to have these tools on the truck because it makes it easier for you to do your job. Then some tools are made for pushing and pulling. So you'll see a series of ceiling hooks there. They're all different designed. The one on top is that metal one that I was telling you. It's like a pry bar on the left-hand side, and it's got these two hooks on the right-hand side, which will go up into the ceiling, and as long as it's not a concrete or masonry ceiling, right, and be able to put a hole in it. You'll also see a wooden one, a small one that is used for, say, closets. There's another one that's made specifically for drywall, another one that's made for cutting in lath and plaster. So all these different things, they're pushing and they're pulling tools. So your ceiling hook, your Clemens hook, your drywall hook, your multi-purpose hooks, all these are, you can push with them, but you can also pull with them. On the right-hand side, you'll see that what we refer to as a shove knife. This is something that perhaps you can make for yourselves using available local resources. And what that does is allow us to be able to insert that when you're trying to force a door, you need to get in on certain doors. You can take that and be able to open a door, and it's just a cheap way to do it, so you're not busting down everybody's door, and so it is called a shove knife. Other functions, we have the prying and the spreading tool. I can't say enough about a Halligan bar. I know we see very few of them in Africa, but they are starting to make a comeback. This tool, which was designed by a firefighter, many of the tools that we have in America were designed by firefighters. They saw a problem and they needed to solve it. So this was a chief in New York City Fire Department who needed some forcible entry. You'll see the forked taper on the upper left-hand side. The adze end that I was saying was the lower right-hand side. It's that flat-looking thing, and then a pointed part just above the adze, and it's a metal. It's all one piece, and so it's very strong. You can even use it to open up doors in automobiles. You can heavy doors. There's a whole lot of things that you can do with a Halligan bar. And just as a side note, and again, we'll get to it at the end, but one thing that you all can do is take advantage of local available resources and be able to make one of these things. You all are very smart at designing and building things. Remember on several trips that I've taken, and you're going down the roadway and you see all those welding places. And I know with Jose and Missions of Hope, they try to, there's some welding classes that they teach the community. And so you could fabricate something like this on your own. So you wouldn't have to try to pay for it or to hope somebody donates it to you. But this is one of the most used tools, I would say, hand tools in the American fire service. So anyways, prying and spreading tools are out there. And then there's cutting tools. And so we would know that cutting tools have a sharp edge. They're used to sever or cut an object, things like knives, seatbelt cutters if you have them, bolt cutters, and saws, your axes. There's a lot of battery-operated tools that are coming on the market now. I know we looked at a fire truck in our department, our brigade, and a neighboring department, they had just purchased one, and it seemed like every tool they had on it was battery operated. So as the world is moving in that direction, that just makes for these nice hand tools. They had some cutters that again was a hand tool, but it was to cut the bars on the windows of places. We have areas that are crime is up, and so they usually when crime is up, they put in these metal gates and stuff in front of businesses, in front of residents, to keep the people out. I know you see them in Africa. I remember staying at a hotel in one of the places, and there was only one way in and one way out, and I was on the third floor, and if a fire broke out, I couldn't get out because there was bars on the window. And so as a fire brigade, how are you going to handle that? What is your plan of action to be able to put a ladder up and get those bars out? Whether you're going to be using, some of the pulling hand tools, or whether you're going to use some of the cutting ones or smashing ones like a sledgehammer, you have to have a plan. And these battery operated tools are making it much easier to be able to work. And then some of your cutting tools, like your Pulaski tool for wildland firefighting. Some places will take a shovel and will on one edge have a sharp edge so that they can cut up roots and things like that. But it's your cutting, and so that's pretty much it for the different functions of it. Again, I had said about the sledgehammer. That's a tool that is very useful on the fire service, and again, like the Halligan bar, should be on every fire truck. So now I want to discuss the phases of use. Right, it's mission critical that firefighters choose the right tools for the right job. Emergencies will typically have multiple tasks that are needed to be accomplished at the same time. So having the right tool for the right job is important. Again, we don't want to be seen as not knowing what we're doing. We don't want the community to see what we call in America a three-ring circus, right? As you take your children to the circus, and there's 3 different rings, and there's a lot of activity, and they're going back and forth, and they're not really accomplishing much. That's the image of a 3-ring circus in the fire service, right? Where you go, like I said, to the incident, and then you say, oh, I need the hose. You go back to the truck and you get the hose. Oh, I need one more length. So you go and get one more length. Oh, I need forcible entry tool. You go back, and so the people are just running around and not accomplishing anything. I saw that one day, one of the fires we were at. It was a difficult fire. There was children trapped and a lot of chaos. And this one wagon driver, it was not funny, but he ran around the fire truck like 20 times. He wasn't accomplishing anything. So it's like a 3-ring circus. So we want to make sure that you're picking the right tool for the right job, so that you get the task done as quickly as possible, so that you can return that emergency back to a sense of normalcy. And so we want to think of an incident that we're going to go to, and what are some basic steps for our fire suppression, right? You receive the phone call, you get the address, and then you take off. And what are you going to do? What kind of hand tools are you going to use just for that basic fire suppression? We think of our response. We should be thinking, okay, what kind of tools am I going to need? That's all part of your size up. What am I responsible for? What is my job? From the information that came in, what needs to happen? You should be thinking this before you get to the scene. And when you get there, do a size up. Do a 360 of the place. I know at the conferences that symposium, that Africa Fire Mission does, when you do those practical tests, and you walk around, right? The officer walks around. Well, that's to figure out what you need. Many times forcible entry is going to be an issue. Fire attack is going to be an issue. That potentially search and rescue, removal of civilians from ladders, all these sorts of things. You're going to have to ventilate, especially if your department doesn't have BAs and you're going in. In Malawi, they didn't have BAs, and when we went there, they had just had a big fire in a government building that was on a multiple floor. It was I can't remember the floor, maybe the 5th or the 6th, but they had to go in without BAs to be able to put this thing out, and so ventilation is critical. That's a priority, and so you need to know how to ventilate. You need to know where to ventilate, and you need to know what tool you're going to use. Again, so if you had brought this to the party, so to speak, to the incident, then you're ahead of the game, and you can get that task done quicker. Search and rescue. We know that even if you're going to I forget what we call them, that you're going with a 10 by 10 huts, and you got multiple of those on fire, and you're still going to need your tools, right? Your forcible entry tools, because maybe you can get around back and you can bust this thing open, and maybe somebody's trapped in there, and it give you just a brief moment of time to be able to pull somebody out. And so, but you have to have your tools there when you show up. And then overhaul and salvage. So these are basic things, each take their tool. Like overhaul and salvage, you're going to need some of those pulling tools. You're going to need those sealing hooks. You're going to need an axe. Because if you do a great job and you put the fire out, and then you celebrate and go back to your quarters, back to brigade, and then 2 hours later you're coming back because you didn't overhaul. Fire gets in those little pockets, and so you need to, on wooden structures, be able to ventilate, to pull the ceiling, to look above. You're going to need to see that on these new buildings that are being built in your cities. And a 10 by 10 hut, there's minimal overhaul. You still have some, but some of your bigger buildings, there's a lot of overhaul and salvage. Each one of these has a priority. So if somebody's trapped and they're hanging out a window that's barred, well, that's a priority. So if you would come with your forcible entry tools, your ladders, things like that, then you can get that up there. Others, fire attack, right? In the unstructured settlements, if fire is moving quickly between these 10 by 10 huts, then you need to get ahead of it. You need to put water on the fire and be able to put it out. Again, search and rescue, that shows itself. Ventilation, we talked about ventilation being a priority in that fire in Malawi. So you have to have the right tools to be able to do that. We went to, and I've always said that each one of these basic steps can be a priority. We went to a fire one time in a library in Washington, D.C., and it just so happened that this library held some artifacts from native Washington, D.C. They're priceless, and the fire had gotten such a big size that we couldn't go in, but But once we figured out that there were these priceless articles, and we had to go in and do salvage, put canvas over them, take out the ones that we could. It was a priority because these items couldn't be replaced. So here's forcible entry. We'll think of the tools needed, that Halligan bar if you have one, sledgehammers, pry bars if you have them, battering rams. That's another tool that you can make locally. It's just a big iron pipe, and it's got handles on it, and you just you push it to as a team of 4 or 5 people. You just push it in to be able to take out a door, or if it's a masonry, a hollow brick building, you can use it to put a hole in there to put a hose line in if you're not going inside. So a battering ram is a perfect tool to have in Africa, and you can research how it looks and make it the best for you. But again, using rebar for handles and a big tube that you get from somewhere, as you can make yourself a battering ram and be prepared. Flathead axes, bolt cutters. Bolt cutters are important and can be used. Remember, with a bolt cutter, that these case hardened locks that we have, they're not designed to cut a case hardened lock. That you'll ruin the tool. But what they are is they're capable of cutting soft metal. So most locks that you have that are case hardened, there's going to be some sort of chain around them. The chain is your weakest point, and that's where you're able to use your bolt cutters to cut. If it's on if it's on a door and there's a flat piece, then the weakest area is that flat piece. You can take your Halligan bar at that the forked tapered end, and you can put the forks in between there and pull down, and that metal will just pull away. If we're trying to overcome the lock on some of these case hardened locks, it's you're just going to end up ruining your tools. That's why it's important to know your limitations on these things. Your interior firefighting, like we talked about, again, you're going to need your BAs. Sorry, I put PPE. Silly me. You're going to need your BAs and your PPE. I put SCBA. And your PPE when you're going inside. You're going to need forcible entry tools with you. So even if you're just sending in a crew, they should have hand tools with them, because you don't know what obstacles you're going to encounter when you're going to need things. Tubular webbing is another important thing. Again, if you don't have tubular webbing available to have, each firefighter can have this in their pocket. You can just use rope that you get at the local hardware store. I saw some that would work just as well, and it's just really important for moving hose lines, for making sure that if you want them to stay in place, keeping them in place, tying a ladder off, dragging people out. The tubular webbing is one of the most widely used hand tools that we have, and every firefighter should have one in their pocket. It's just very good. Ask Jose about that during tea break, and he can tell you about that, as he helped tie a whole bunch of them. Ceiling hooks, your hose line. If you're going to be going interior with your BAs and all, then that means you should have a team outside ready to go that have hand tools as well, right? They're going to want to have a Stokes basket. They're going to want to have forcible entry tools. They're going to want to have ceiling hooks, all these things to help support the operation, right? Remember, hand tools help support an operation. You would be assigned a task, and then they help you to get that task done quicker and safer than using your bare hands. And then you may need teams for rotating. That fire in Malawi, You can only stay in a fire for so long without a BA. You're going to need to come back. Somebody else is going to need to replace you. But these are tools to be thinking about in your interior firefighting. We need to get out of the notion of just sending a crew in with a branch and a hose. We need to have a complete team which would have these tools that make life a whole lot easier. And then for ventilation, I did include power saws here, which is not a hand tool, but those are good for making holes. And again, even though it's not a hand tool, like everything else, you need to know where it's at. You need to know that it's working. You need to know that you are capable of doing it. But for ventilation, axes are one of your biggest things. Ceiling hooks are there. You can even use a ladder for ventilation. And so if what we used to do in Washington, D.C. is we would always raise a ladder on every fire. And you could use that once you take it to a window. That team can what we call drop into the window. In other words, take the tip of the ladder and just smash it into the window. Well, now you're ventilating. And so that's a whole nother topic. And I'm pretty sure that Africa Fire Mission has done some great presentations on ventilation. Maybe you can look them up just to kind of help you as you go. And then overhaul and salvage. Salvage covers are important for that, for the salvage work. Many books from America will say salvage and overhaul. So I kind of disagree with that. I think overhaul is more important. Salvage is like the least, except for in rare occasions, like I told you on the library. And so but you need to have tools to be able to help support that, right? Salvage covers, some sort of plastic covers that you can put over, especially when you're going to the unstructured settlements. This is everybody's livelihood. This is all they have, and so we need to help them to salvage that this is something good a fire brigade can do to help win over the community, so that they're not throwing stones at them, but they can salvage the items and make sure that people aren't stealing them. And cover what little they have that's salvageable, so that they can reuse it when they build their new place back. But back to overhaul and salvage, you're going to need those pushing tools, your ceiling hooks of various sizes, your prying tools. Your Halligan bar is good for that, opening up in the walls, opening up in the ceiling. Your cutting tools, right? Those saws, maybe axes potentially. And then debris removal. Again, we had metal buckets with shovels. You want to get this stuff out of the building, especially if it's a wooden structure, because if the fire is not completely extinguished and removed from the building, then it will rekindle. And we always took that as a huge insult if there was ever a rekindle. And so having these metal buckets, you can just put the charcoals, things like that in there, and take it to the outside in a safe area. Rakes, shovels, things like that for hand tools that will help with that. Now I want to talk a little bit about maintenance, right? We need to perform regular maintenance. It is important. It is mission critical. I can't stress this enough. Don't wait till Mike comes to put on a training and find out that all your saws that he fixed are no longer working, or that all these tools that were given to you are nowheres to be found or not in working order. It just looks bad when you show up to a fire and the tool does not work. Citizens are counting on you, or is not there. I know one brigade that they had received a lot of tools from various places, and they were proud of them, and they wanted to show them off. They were in their storage unit. And so if the theory was, because people would steal them, that they kept them in the storage unit. If they needed it, they'd come back and get it. Well, that takes time. Fires grow quickly. If you've ever been to a unstructured settlement fire, they spread quickly. So you have to have the tools there, and they have to work and be capable of doing it. So keeping your tools ready is mission critical. The tools have to be clean, free from dirt and rust. The cutting edges have to be sharp. The fuel tanks have to be full. We have to ensure every piece of equipment is operating as it was intended. We need to clean and inspect tools after each use. And then we can use the internet to help out if you are unsure how something works. The internet is a great tool to be able to learn more about what kind of tools you need, and then how to work the tools that you have and how to maintain these tools. When I was a firefighter in Washington, D.C., every tour that we came in, we would inspect our tools, right? So every morning, after I put my gear on the apparatus, have a quick cup of coffee, talk to the officer, do the change of shift thing. Then we would go out and we would inspect every tool and appliance, make sure they're clean, make sure they're ready to go. If there was any missing, we'd try to figure out where they went, or if we had a spare one, we'd put it on there. Things that didn't work, we made sure that it was ready to go, because we wanted everything to work when it was needed to work. That was part of having this professional air about us. Now, not every brigade in America is like that. I can take you to some brigades that they don't care about their equipment. They don't check their equipment, and it's just on there. And what happens when they go to a fire and somebody gets hurt or killed, a citizen, and they don't have the right tools, or they don't know how to operate the tools? We see that. America is big enough that we see. What we worked on was making sure that our stuff was ready to go. That's where it begins. So it begins in your brigade, you taking the time to maintain the equipment. Every time you come in to the brigade, look at the equipment, put your hands on it. If there's multiple parts, make sure they're all working. Make sure there's no damage, nothing that could hurt somebody. Like you think of a sledgehammer that we had got in this one brigade, and I went to show them how to use it, and the head went one direction and the wooden handle went the other direction. That just and that those things shouldn't happen. You should check to make sure that there's no rot if you have wooden parts to it. And again, I'm a big proponent of metal now. I know it makes the tools heavier, but that's why you work out. But they're less likely to break when you have a sledgehammer or things like that. And for you all, it's easier for you to maintain them. We would even have in Washington, D.C., once a year, we would have what we called an annual inspection, where the fire chief himself would come, or herself would come and inspect every firehouse, every brigade, right? We had 33 engine companies in Washington, D.C., and so they would inspect us, and they would look at each tool. Well, we spent a lot of time and effort making each tool look nice, painting them up, making sure that they worked, getting everything ready. And so what that did was that ensured that every brigade in Washington, D.C. was up to a minimal standard, and not, this company not caring and looking at things, or the other company, doing a great job. And so, maybe an inspection would be good, but we got to maintain what we have, keep things clean, free of dirt, which is a challenge in many of your places because of the dust and the dirt. But Where I am in Boyden, Virginia, is the same way. We're constantly cleaning the tools and making sure, because we have dirt roads and things like that. And so perhaps you've been listening to this and you're saying to yourself, hey, this is all great, but we don't have very many tools. We only got 4 lengths of hose that may or may not work and kind of leaky, and one branch, and maybe a ceiling hook or whatever. So this has really not been very good for me. Well, it is good for you, because we need to be able to advocate for the tools that we need. Again, as money is coming into some of your countries, and these places are getting better and better, and more stuff, more modern. We need to make sure that the fire brigades are equipped and have the things that they need. And so, if your brigade does not have enough hand tools, you need to learn how to advocate for the tools you need. So that starts at the very bottom, your bottom firefighters being able to talk to your chiefs, your officers, and say, hey, look, can we get one of these? Can we try to make one of these? Can we get the certain tools? And so you're advocating, you're persuading, you're putting the bug in the ear, so to speak, as we say in America, to your officers of the importance of these tools, and you're trying to get them. Your chiefs, on the other hand, need to be able to go to the elected officials and be able to get more in the budget to be able to take care of hand tools. And so they need to learn how to advocate for these tools. Yes, it's nice that people will donate things and get things given to you, but many times I find that donated tools only last but a little bit, right? Again, I told you I've seen where officers have sold that equipment. I've been to one brigade where we gave them this one piece of equipment, every firefighter, this one piece of equipment. And we came back the next year, and there wasn't a one to be seen. They weren't in the firefighter's coat like we told them it should be. They weren't on the apparatus. They weren't even hanging on the wall somewheres. They didn't exist. And so, but if you take the time to advocate to get the money to be able to do it, or you take the time to be able to design a tool that you need, that's important, and it goes a long ways. You all are intelligent. Right? You're the subject matter experts when it comes to fire in your location. And so I know that you are capable of advocating for these hand tools and or making them and designing them. And so that brings us to our last topic in the last few minutes that we have, is problem solving. And I just wanted to talk about this because of the problem that I've seen in the brigades of not having the hand tools on the apparatus that you need. Again, many said, well, hey, they get stolen by the citizens. They are taken by the officers and sold. I mean, I've actually heard that. And so one of the things that I learned in Washington, D.C. was problem solving as I became a officer. And so this would be a perfect scenario for us to be able to, well, how do we solve that problem then? Solving the problem is not, asking somebody else to give you more Halligan bars if you no longer have them. We have to find ways to be able to stop the problem. And so what I was taught in Washington, D.C., on solving problems is very simple. And it allows you all to be able to solve the problem, because me from America, I don't understand every little bit about your area. So when you're going to solve a problem, first you identify the problem. Somebody is stealing the Halligan bars. All right. Then I want to come up with several solutions. All right. So you would sit down and discuss it as firefighters. One might say, hey, we need to put locks on the fire trucks. Hey, we need to put them here. You know, we need to do this. Putting them in the closet is not a solution, right? But you all would come up with what your solution to the problem. Maybe it's a fire prevention where you're going in and talking to the community and whatever. But you come up with several solutions. Then you're going to pick the best one that you think is going to solve the problem, and then you're going to put it in practice. And then you're going to monitor that, you know, over time to see if, all right, I'm going to come back 6 months later. Are the halogen bars now still on the fire truck? Okay, we solved the problem, you know, or that the government has given us money for things and actually gave us the money, you know, so now we've solved the problem. But if you put these little problem-solving things in place, then you all can figure out what the challenges are, and then find ways to meet the challenge, so that your brigade would be the best brigade in the area. That you would that the citizens would respect you as a subject matter expert, respect you as for what you're trying to do, and will want to help you in any way possible. So hand tools are designed to help firefighters complete those tasks in a safe and fast manner, resolving the emergency and returning the area to a sense of normalcy. And for questions, I'm sure I will entertain any questions during tea time, but that will do it for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Craig. We really appreciate you being here. Great presentation, very thorough, and love that advocacy portion on the backside, utilizing those locally available resources, all the things that we always teach and advocate. Thanks very much for being here today. I'm going to wrap up sort of the formal portion of our training now with a big thank you to Craig for being here and sharing his knowledge and expertise. And to thank all of you for taking the time out of your schedules, for using your bundles to be here with us. We don't take for granted the sacrifice that you make to make yourselves better so that you can better serve your community. Hope to continue building that capacity throughout all of Africa. But thank you all for being here. If you think there's somebody that might benefit from our trainings, please feel free to share that registration link. We've got plenty of seats here for the class. We can take up to 300 people every week. So please feel free to share this with anybody that you think may benefit from our training. And I hope to see you all again next week.